Hey, what's up? This is Life as Ben. I am Ben. Today I want to combine two of my favorite hobbies, that is self-hosting and Ark. I enjoy the game quite a bit, like play with my son. So today I think we'll take a look at hosting that with Contabo. Alright, so we are looking here at Contabo. This is, I've never used this service before, but they seem to have really good prices. I'm not in Europe though, so let's move over to America. We need to move to United States and we'll switch over to the USD. Okay, so we can host for starting at $5.50, which is a really pretty good price compared to what others are hosting for. Up there with Vulture or DigitalOcean. Except for that price, we get 4 vCores and 8 gigs of RAM. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this. Before we do, I think we need to set up a account with them. So let me get that started real quick and we'll be right back. Okay, we are logged in and this is the first thing we're greeted with. Now I tried using a prepaid debit card. I didn't quite like that. However, it does support PayPal, so that is a really good option if you don't want to give them your credit card. That's the best way to go. Up to 100% off. Sure, I like the idea. We'll take a look here. Didn't really tell me a whole lot. Let's go ahead and start off with a Cloud VPS. Now it pre-selected this one right here, which is what we want. We do want the 16 gigs of RAM and 6 vCores. This is a really great price, $12.50 a month. I haven't seen anything like that anywhere else for 16 gigs of RAM, especially. And that's really what matters the most with an Ark server. You're going to need about 10 gig for the island, and other maps may need more. But we'll start off with this, and who knows, maybe back and upgrade it to a 24 gig server later. For now, we can start off with 16 gig, and we'll go from there. So we'll select on that, and I am just going to run this for 1 month starting off. They do charge extra depending on where you're located. That really cuts into the deal too, doesn't it? I am in Midwest, so I'll choose Central. Now, when we're looking at this, we're really comparing to Nitrado, and that's what we're trying to avoid, is hosting with Nitrado, which is overpriced in my opinion, and they just aren't super reliable. If we take a look at Ark Survival Ascended, say rent the server, we are looking at 30 days, so 1 month server is $25. We'll compare that to Contabo, we're a little bit under that at 25 versus 24. So still, even with the United States premium here, we're still under budget. We're, 4 gigs of SSD is plenty, but being a game server, let's make it the NVMe. Might as well get a little bit more. Ark itself is only like 30 gig, maybe, if that. So 200 gig, it will be plenty for us. Now we need to choose an operating system. I like to use Debian for this, and let's see if they have one with Docker installed already. They do. Debian 12 with Docker. Now Debian and Ubuntu are pretty similar. Ubuntu is based on Debian, so with a few other things added on. We don't really need other things added on. So Debian 12 would be great. It might have a little less overhead, and we'll use that instead. Now we need to choose a root password. Root is, of course, the admin password for every Linux server. We'll make it something strong. Now, again, it says 8 to 30 alphanumeric characters. No special characters. So just like the password login to Contabo, they want us to keep it pretty simple. What I like to do is I like to use the Bitwarden to generate a password, or KeePass. Alright, so I've used KeePass to generate a password for us, just a random, this one's 20 characters, but close enough. We'll go with that. And now, because I have it in KeePass, it is saved. It's locally stored. Don't have to worry about somebody else getting hold of that. Not too bad. Object storage. We don't really need any extra storage for this. Not currently. Private networking. I don't think we need any private networking for this. We're going to be hosting it so we can get to it from our computer. We only need one IPv4. Actually, it's really cool that that's included for free. Some of the services now are charging for the IPv4 address. Backup space. You know, it would be good to eventually have some backup set up, but we don't really need it for right now. We don't need the managed server. We're going to do that on our own. Don't really need any monitoring, and don't really need any SSL certs. Again, if we did, we could use Let's Encrypt. So we are all set. We have our one server. Let's say next. It just gives a quick outline of what we're getting. Getting 6 vCores, which would be great. 16 gigs of RAM and 200 gigs of storage. It's going to install Docker for us. Now we'll have to see. I may regret that. I usually like to install Docker myself, but we'll see what it gives us. And hopefully that includes Docker Compose also. Any coupon code? Let's see if we can find a coupon code here, because it does say, yeah, it says no setup fee on VPS. Alright, searched around, didn't find any coupons that would work, but that's right. We're still using this service because they are cheaper than the competition. So we'll go ahead and give this a try. Looks like we can withdraw within 14 days. So if we try this out and it's just garbage, we can back out anyway. Either way. Okay, so here we go. It says we are set up. It says payment is processing. Here's my order ID. We can take a look at the estimated provision times. Estimated provision time. So if we request it, no later than February 17th. Hopefully it doesn't take that long. Okay, so this is for dedicated server. We don't have a dedicated server. Okay, so thank you for your order. Your payment order has been received and is currently being provisioned. It says expect it in about 3 hours. So, however, it says in most cases provision in a much shorter time. In rare cases, it may take longer. So we may have some tonight. Okay, we're back. It didn't take too long. Only took a few minutes. So I'm going to come up here to the corner, click on my account, and we'll wait for this to load. Alright, that page took a little bit, but we're back up here. Here's my customer ID. I'll be sure to put that down in the comments too, if you want to give me a referral. But what we have is we have a VPS. We have the virtual data or virtual private server. We want the virtual private server control. Let's take a few minutes to load. Okay, so from here it says we can do our restarts, we can start or stop, cloud init, reinstall. We can do a rescue system when you repair the OS. We take snapshots or roll back a snapshot. So I think with this we do get 1 or 2 snapshots, which is pretty good, but hopefully we won't need that. It is, let's see here, we have a server which gives us the default user. See that it's running, we can restart, stop. I'm not quite sure what cloud init does. It says toggles, enhanced features for cloud automation and security on, off, or restall. Rescue system snapshot and manage would be to move it or grow drives or whatever. So let's go ahead and see if we can SSH into this now. Alright, to get into this, we're just going to open a PowerShell. We're going to type in SSH. We'll do root and I copy that IP address, paste that in there. Wants to know the group password. We have that stored over in KeePass. We copy that, and we are in. Look at that. Now let's see. Docker Compose. Cool. It responds. Very good. Docker PS. Nothing installed currently. All right, so we can get started. Now, for this, I like to put all of my containers under opt. This container D there will create a folder called Docker. A CD into that. Okay, so we don't have to keep logging in with root. Let's create an account that we can use. So we'll say user add, call it Ben for me. We'll say password, and we will paste in a new password from KeyPass. And there we go. Now if we cat of Etsy password, it gives us our new account down here, Ben. That's our user ID and our group ID. Okay, so let's add Ben to the sudo group so we can stop using root. We'll say user mod, say add to group, and we'll say we're going to add it to the sudo group, and we're adding Ben. And now we can actually come in here and do the same thing for Docker, so we can run Docker commands. And now let's create one more account, and we'll say user add, and we're going to call this ASA for our Ark Survival Ascended. And we're going to create one more password with KeyPass. All right, user add, we'll give it a password and paste that in there. There we go. Now we don't need to add this one to the sudo group or to Docker. We're just going to use this when we create our containers. It's going to clear the screen, start off fresh. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on adding some containers to this now. One of the first ones I like to add is a new container, but it's called Dockge. So we'll create a folder for Dockge. So we'll do mkdir, call it Dockge, I guess that's how you pronounce it. And then inside here, we'll cd into that. And we'll create a compose file. Okay, so I like to use Nano. It's just a simple text editor. So let's create a compose file in here. And we'll get started on this. Now if we come here to Dockge. Okay, so to install Dockge, we'll go ahead and start over here. Just do a quick Google search for that. I'll give you everything to copy paste down below, but we're just going to take a look at their compose file. Might as well start off with something that's already pre-made. Makes it a lot easier to start, and we'll make our own updates. All right, so we'll copy that, and then we need to go back to our PowerShell window, and we'll just right-click to paste all that in there. Okay. Now, stepping through this, we have Docker Compose version 3.8, which is good. The service that it's going to create is Dockge. This is the image it's going to pull down, and we choose the ports. By default, it chooses 5001. We don't have anything else running currently, so 5001 is perfect. This pastes in some extra stuff there we don't need. This does have a folder called /data. We'll have to create that before we start this. And where are we placing these? It says if you did this wrong, you could end up running to the wrong path. You want the full path only, no relative paths, and the left stack path must match the right stack path. So we're going to go ahead and we put that into /opt/docker. We'll do the same thing on both sides. /opt/docker, and then down here we'll tell it /opt/docker, and that's where our stacks will be. All right, we'll hit Control X to exit, Y to save, and then enter. Now remember we had that. If we do a cat on the compose, we do have this /data folder we need to create. So let's go ahead and make that. We don't want we do a dot slash, or we just say data. There we go. And we are ready to start this. Say Docker Compose up. We'll say D to run this as daemon, or as a service basically. And then let's also say Docker compose. The end says we can after this runs, go ahead and run this, and we'll say Docker compose logs, and we'll want to follow the logs. And we'll wait while this gets pulled down. Okay, so it created a Dockge network for us. It created the container, and here are the logs. It is up and running, listening on port 5001. It says there's no users currently, so we need to go create one. So let's go back and see if we can log into this server. We'll just take over this Dockge window since we're done with that. I will grab our IP address again, and we'll paste it in here, and we'll say port 5001. Hit enter. Let's create our user. I don't like to use just admin or just root. We'll call this Dockge admin. Alright, that way it's not too obvious what it is if somebody goes poking around. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to our key pass over here, and we'll go ahead and add another entry here just to show you what I'm doing. We're going to call this Contabo Dockge, and we're going to name the user Dockge admin, and it's created a random password for us already. Alright, so we can just right click on this, and we'll say copy password, and can come over here and paste it. Alright, and we'll create, and here we have it, brand new Dockge instance. Over here we can see Dockge. This is one we've already created. There's our compose file we just created. It makes it real easy to come in here and edit. So let's add a new compose. We're getting pretty close to being done here, guys. Alright, so now we have an advantage. The big advantage to Docker is that we don't have to go through and try to figure out how to host this server ourselves. There are already people smarter than us that have made containers to do this. So let's go ahead and just do a quick Google search for Ark Survival Ascended Server Docker. Alright, so the first hit here is this one by Johnny Knighton. Take a look at that. Now I've never used this one in particular, but just scrolling through it looks like he's done a pretty good job. This is using Wine. Currently I haven't seen Survival Ascended servers that use Linux natively, so Wine basically emulates Windows executables. We can start off by just taking this right here, and let's go back to our Dockge instance. Okay, so this has a handy little tool here to convert any Docker run into a compose file. However, we want to clean it up just a little bit before we actually click run, because there's some things here that it does not like. And I'll give you a compose file that you can just paste in. Alright, so this is a environment variable, and we want to name it life as been. Alright, that should be admin password. We'll clean that up again later. Let's see, these are volumes. Oh, look at that, we can expand this a little bit. Alright, let's go ahead and try that out. Convert to JSON. That's not too bad. Alright, let's make this a little bit easier to follow. We're going to move the image up to the top. Container name, we're going to leave that out. The service, we already have this. We're going to call this stack ASA. So really for the service, we're going to call this our server name. Alright, we get the image, we have our ports, and some environment variables. Now I don't like that password. Let's make it a little more secure. There we go. We'll change the S's to 5s, and now nobody can hack it. For volumes, now we want to create all of these locally, so we'll say now we'll probably have to use a full path here. let's say /op/docker. Actually, let's just try the relative path. Let's just give it a shot. Okay, so we've got these set up with the server logs, backups, and we'll get rid of this. It'll create that automatically. And we'll go from this, we'll give it a shot. All right, now other variables though we want to add in. For one, we could move these down here. All right. Nobody really gives too much other than clean up our variables here a little bit. Now if we look at their list, he's got things like time zone. We'll update time zone. So say time zone equals time in America, Chicago time. Okay, main config, we'll set config file. We'll let it for us to begin with. Any schedule research server, that could be really handy. Okay, let's put it later. Schedule date, back and forth date, yeah, we got that. Now if we look at their list, he's got things like time zone. We want to update the time zone, don't we? So let's say time zone equals, now I'm in America, Chicago time. Okay, manual config. We will set a config file. We'll let it create one for us to begin with. Enable scheduled restarts of the server. That could be really handy. We'll come back to that. We'll play with that one later. Alright, server name, we already set that environment variable. Server password, let's go ahead and add a server password because we don't want just anybody logging in. And we'll make it super hard. Lab123. Map is automatically defaulted to the island. Once we get other maps, you'll need to change that. Max players, we don't want our server bogged down too much. And chances are you're just setting this up for you and a couple friends. Enable PvP. And model this. We'll come back to that also. Okay, I think we are about set. Now again, I think we'll come back after we run this once and make a couple other changes to this. What I would like to do is move the INI files out to where they're easier to get to, but for this, this will give us a place to start. Let's go hit save and start it. Alright, so just like we saw in the command line earlier, we've got all the status right up here. Okay, so there we go. We created the network, and now it's going to start downloading the game pretty soon. There we go. This part will probably take a few minutes. Okay, looks like we are almost done. It says server Ark Server has successfully started. However, our server should not be named Ark Server, so we may have to come back and look at that again. Okay, we are back. It is the next day. I did some testing on my own. It seemed this server was not showing up the way that we really expected it to, so let's go ahead and change a couple things. First off, I'm going to go ahead and move our variables back up to the compose file, just to keep it a little bit more familiar. We'll go ahead and paste those in there. And then we need to format these the way they expect. 2 spaces and a hyphen. The exact number of spaces don't matter as long as it's consistent. Okay, there we go. Now we'll take them out of this. Now what we want to change here is we want to go back to his documentation, and we want to change a couple other options here too. Okay, so we want to change a couple options here too. Let's look at the config files. Managing config file, let's set manual config to true. Okay, so we'll add another environment variable here. Paste that in. And it's saying if the game INI file doesn't exist, it will create them, and it creates one with these settings by default, which would all be specified from these environment variables. But let's see what we can do to add that manually instead. Now this says it's going to place it in Ark servers, game shooters. We're way deep in here. We don't really want to have to dig for that anytime we want to update the INI files. So let's go back to our PowerShell window, and we're going to place them right here at the root, along with our other paths. We're going to create a nano, and we're going to make a game to INI, and we'll add to this later, but for now we'll just make it very simple. Go paste that in here, and if you're not familiar with this, when you right click in PowerShell, it pastes it. Alright, Control X, yes to save, enter. Okay, so for the game user settings to INI, what I'll start off with is the INI file that this generated when I first started up. I'll go ahead and paste I'll put the updates down in the find a place to put the updates where you can find them. But for now, let's go ahead and copy this from where it is located, which is just going to CP for copy. We'll go from server and tab a couple times. It'll give us shooter games. Now actually, let's go ahead and look. I believe he says where this is located. All right, shooter games, saved, config, Windows Server, game user settings to INI, and we're going to copy it to here. Period means the current working folder, which is /op docker asa. All right, hit enter, and now we can nano game user settings to INI, and here we can go ahead and update a few things. Archon enabled, we'll leave that true. Server password, it didn't copy our password over, so let's go ahead and put that in. I believe we used lab123. It didn't keep our admin password, which is a bummer. So we'll go ahead and put in our super secret password. Oh, that didn't work. Let's delete that. Okay, now we'll come back and we'll change a lot of these later, but this will get us started at least. Session name, we don't want this to be Ark Server, we want this to be Life Has Been. Okay, I think that will get us most of the way going. Let's just see if there's anything down the bottom. Lots of options here. Okay, I think all that looks good. Okay, so we'll hit Control X to save, and Y for yes. Gonna save it there. Do an ls. Now we have our game to INI and our game user settings to INI. What we need to do now is update our compose file so that it knows to mount those files instead of the originals. Come back over here, and here where we have volumes, we can put in a line and say, we can call it dot game to INI, and we will tell that to mount it inside the container. We'll mount it in Ark Server, and actually we can just a little bit easier. Let's go to here, and we'll copy all this. And paste it in here, and then we're going to call that game.ini. And we're going to do one more. We'll say game user settings to INI, and we're going to tell that to mount it same folder. What happened here? Undo. There we go. That was weird. Game user settings to INI. All right. I wish that was a little bit wider so we could see it, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and hit save, and we'll start it up. Now, since we've already run this once before, we shouldn't have to re-download anything. We're going to update these settings so it will recreate the container, but hopefully everything will, all the hard part is done. We'll give this a few minutes. Just checking for updates, checking our config, which is told to use manual config. Alright, we are almost there. Now we have the new server name. Successfully started. Give it a few more seconds. And I believe we are good. Let's go open Ark and take a look. Okay, we'll do a quick search here. We'll call this live as Ben. We do need to look for password protected servers. Took it a few minutes to show up, but now if we search for live as Ben, hit enter to search, here is our server. It's been live for, it's on day 1, and we'll hit join. Our password was LAB123. And now if we look over at Dockge, we do see the incoming connection, which is good. And we'll create a random character, just get started. Sure, that looks good. Alright, and we'll just call him Ben. And we'll pick spot to join in. Here, I like this east zone. And there we have it, our very own Ark server. Now I would say, I haven't really tested this out much, but so far it looks pretty good. I will play around with this a little bit and see what we can get going. I think what I'll do is I'll load up a save that I've already got stored from another server, and we will actually try exploring the map, see how load times are, if it seems to lag or whatever, and go on from there. But so far, we are up and running. Okay, so there we have it. We've got our own server running on Contabo. We built it from ground up just about. We'll have to watch it over a few days. This should, by default, also be a cross-platform server. So if your friend on Xbox wants to join in, they can. Looks like the price is pretty good when we compare it to these $25 for a 30-day server. We are running at, let's just take a look at the billing real quick. So we are in for $25.50 a month plus $2.50 a month. For our first month, we did have an $8.50 setup fee, which isn't too bad for something that's this powerful. So even just the first month, we are in for less than what Nitrado is giving us. Now, when you expand that out to multiple months, you basically lose that $8.50 off there. So we're at $15 or so, a little over $15 per month. So yeah, for $15 a month, that's a really good deal. And yeah, we do have to manage it ourselves. And for next videos, I'll show you a little easier way to manage our INI files. I know that the command line is not for everybody. This is not a very convenient way to manage the server, but we'll get a web interface going for that too, and we'll make this easier for everybody to use. All right, so stay tuned and hang out for the next videos.